So mentoring young graduates and students.
Mentoring. Okay.
So we discovered that there is a huge gap between those that have gone ahead as in subject matter experts and young graduates as a huge gap. And we feel like sharing experiences is very good for those that are just coming up, so that they'll be able to learn faster and be able to move their productivity will also be faster. So that's one of the reasons why we are doing what we are doing. So it's a media chat. What we are doing is a media chat. It's a arm of the mentorship platform. We also have an aspect called Engr. Engr is about technology, engineering, and geosciences. So we are mentoring students, young graduates around Engr, technology, engineering, and students. So we discovered that there's a huge gap between, like what I said earlier, between subject matter experts. And we also discovered that in engineering, most engineering students or graduates tend to work in the financial sector instead of the real industry that's actually meant for them because of the situation of the economy. So, and also in geoscience, the same thing is applicable to geosciences, geology, geophysics, and the rest like that. So, what we are doing here is the media chats. So, we want younger generation, younger engineers to learn from you, sir. We want to hear how God has helped you so far, the journey so far. So we'll be asking some questions. So I don't know if were you able to go through the one I sent to you, sir?
Yes, I was.
So in the GFIN, we're going to start.
Yes, you can start. I'm very happy to hear about what you are doing. Unfortunately, we are not in the right type of country. We just talked about engineers going into finance and all whatnot. And that's the situation in which we found ourselves. And it is the type of environment in which we are, the type of people who are ruling us. One can tell you many experiences that one has had, which proves that those who are ruling us, they are not doing it the right way. They are not doing it the right way. One can say that I don't know whether we should say they don't have the interest, or we should say the typical example I can give you is this. I learned that when India started the government over there had a policy, and that policy was that anything that was to be imported into that country must be manufactured there. You know the implication of that. If you are manufacturing in their country, there's no way that they themselves will not gain knowledge. I'm talking of knowledge now. And that's why India is what it is today. India manufactures cars, manufacture aeroplanes. They are even into nuclear technology. They wouldn't have been there if they followed the track that we have followed in Nigeria. Next month it will be 60 years since we got our independence. What have we been able to manufacture? when I came back into this country, I came back in November 1959. At that time, there was that enthusiasm. You know, all the people graduating or finishing their education abroad. I was in UK. Anybody qualifying at that time was eager to come back home to do something. But they came back and find out one was disappointed. I first, when I came back, by the way, I was on government scholarship when I went. And when I came back, I didn't want to work for the government because I wanted to go into production. Because the way I trained, they were manufacturing from ordinary, from foundry up to machining and then assembling the machine and sending out. So with this, I felt that I was interested in production, engineering production. The first obstacle I wanted to start with, I started in Lagos, in the private sector. The people I worked with, I don't want to tell you their names. They couldn't decide my salary. And the big boss sent to the chief engineer of Kingsway in Lagos to go and find out. You know, the chief engineer of Kingsway would definitely be European. So to go and find out how much they should pay me. And they offered me 600 pounds. And I was not ready to take 600 pounds, so I gave them a notice. My mates in Ibadan was the center then of development in Nigeria. My mates in the government in Ibadan was 972. Somebody was offering me 600 in it. And whereas I was getting telegrams from the government that sent me abroad, disappointment that I got. The next disappointment was that even when I was in the government, I was still interested. I traveled to Ghana. I was going to start making nails to start with. I was going to manufacture nails. And of course, you know, being young and new in this business, there was no money. I was lucky I had contact with somebody who was a native of this town, who was very close to the MD of Cooperative Bank. Those days. The name was Chief Onogurua. So it took me to him, that this young man wants to start this. Then the old man looked at me. He said, "Do you know that the only distributor of nails in Nigeria was UAC?" I said, "Yes." But I know that the raw material that I was going to use will have to come from you. I said, "Yes." But I know that UAC can stop that raw material coming into Nigeria. They won't allow it. Because by manufacturing it here, they won't be making the money that they. Yeah. So that was it. That's how that idea was killed. So this is the situation. Now, and unfortunately, you know, by that time then, shortly after my return home, we got independence in 1960. If we had had the right type of people ready to mentor all these, to help all these young ones who have, there were many of us who were sent abroad at that time, mostly by Action Group. I don't know if you've heard about Action Group before. Yes, Chief Obaf Femawolo, they were very, very, very active. But they were not in the federal government. It's only Western region. So, nobody to finance it. No way I could get it financed. You see what is happening today now, you have Bank of Industry. Trying, making every effort to get people interested, young ones interested in manufacturing and all the rest of it. Industrialization.
Yes, sir.
So that's it. If you had had that type of people at that time, Nigeria would not be where we are today. If they had that policy that the Bank of Industry is pursuing today, if I had it in the 60s, Nigeria would be far, far ahead. So,
thank you very much, sir. Officially, sir, we would like you to introduce yourself.
yes.
And also to share with us how you were able to, we know those days, going to school is always very, very hard. Some people are privileged to go to school. So you have to share with us after introducing yourself. Tell us, how were you able to get to school?
Yeah. Well, my name is Ogundeyin. I'm a chartered engineer, chartered mechanical engineer. And I'm registered with COREN as well. So, I'm from this town. I was born in Ogundeyin. My father was a government clerk in those days. My mother was just a housewife. And I'm from polygamous family. Probably you want to know how I went to school?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Since I grew up, I've now come to realize that God has always had a hand in my life. It's not that my life has not been the normal one. I can see God's hand all the time, piloting me. And you will see, you understand what I mean. You said, how did I go to school? My father was a product of Wesley College.
Okay.
You've heard of Wesley College?
Shaka.
Teacher Training College in Ibadan.
Okay,
That was one of the most important colleges in those days, just as you had St. Andrew's College in Oyo. So those were the two. So my father was a product of that. And he was getting on in the civil service. But you'll be surprised to know that it was my mother that sent me to school. I don't want to go into that detail. But as I told you, I'm from a polygamous family. But for my mother, I don't think, I probably would not have gone to school at all. And that was in January 1939. And she did that. She sent me to school up to, in those days we used to spend 8 years in primary school. She would have done it for about 6 years before my father sort of came into it a little bit. So that's the first part of my life.
So you later now had the scholarship?
I was, pardon?
You later now had the scholarship?
Yes, I'm coming to that. After the that difficult time was starting in life, I never realized all these things because I was too young anyway. I took entrance examination to Ibadan Grammar School. You will ask, why did I want Ibadan Grammar School? I wanted it. In those days, there was nothing like radio, no newspaper, no news from anywhere. This place was the end of the world. So, if you were coming from Lagos, you come through Shagamu, you get to Ode here. That's a small town called Ipara, just about 1 mile from here, which is about 2 kilometers from here. Once you got to Ipara, that was the end of the world. You can't go further. You couldn't go further. You have to come back to Ode, to Iperu, probably go to Edition, then go to Ijebu-Ode, from Ijebu-Ode to Ibadan. So that's what. And if you wanted to get out of this town, you must be up before 5 o'clock. Because once the transport, the passenger lorry that was going out of this town left at 5 o'clock, no more. No way of getting out unless you walk to Iperu. So that was it. So, as I said, the reason why I went to Ibadan Grammar School was I had some in my compound, the Remo here, had some friends of, not probably friends, relations, who were in secondary school in Ibadan. Their mother was from Odiremo, their father was from Ijebu-Ode. So they used to come here on vacation. That's how I got to know that there was a school called Ibadan Grammar School. I was communicating with them to find out when I could take the entrance examination. And of course, in those days, if you wanted to go to secondary school, you had to take entrance examination to that particular school you want to go to. Every school had its own examination. Well, of course, not many of them. Ibadan Grammar School, in the whole of Ibadan, we had about 3 or 4 secondary schools, that's all. In the whole of Ijebu here, I think we had only Ijebu Grammar School until about 1946, when we had the Remo Secondary School. Those are the only 2. So that's how I got to Ibadan Grammar School, but unfortunately there was a misunderstanding. which I don't want, the details of which I don't want to go into again, had to come back to the. I started with them at the background school the first day, but this misunderstanding came. I had to return to it to come and repeat what we used to call Standard 6, which is the final year. I took the examination in 1946 when I was in Standard 6, so I had to come back to come and repeat Standard 6 in 1947. By that time, because my mother was more involved with my education, I wanted to get a scholarship. Somebody told me about it, Government College Ibadan. So I was working towards that, getting into Government College. I took the exam. Fortunately, I passed. But when I was to go for the interview, you had to do the interview before you get the final result. Tragedy came. I was playing. I had a piece of broom in my mouth. And I just wanted to get off. And then my knee hit that broom. I had caught the soft part of it, is the strong part that was in my mouth. My knee struck the piece of the broom in my mouth, and it went into my throat. It was a lot of pulling that I had to do before I could take it out. And the blood started coming. So my grandmother helped me to treat it with hot drink and all the rest of it. There was a local dispenser who had to put some things into it. But as you can imagine, it started spoiling. So with that swollen cheek, I went to take entrance to Ijebu Grammar School, which was the second school I wanted. That same school, the secondary school, again, it was somebody who was a student there that told me about it, and I got a form. So I wanted to take that as a second Cambridge Overseas examination. The final year of doing it, whilst the bus was moving on, I saw somebody reading a newspaper, and there I saw scholarship. So I followed, I went on with the bus to Bere in Ibadan to go and buy the newspaper. It was Tribune, Nigerian Tribune then. And that's it. I got the paper, I saw the advertisement, and they wanted to award scholarship for printing engineering. And all they needed, the qualification they needed was grade 1 school certificate. They didn't talk of science. So I applied. Miraculously enough, that was just a few months after my secondary school. The result came, I got it. I got the scholarship. So exactly one year after leaving secondary school, I was already in London. Going to do printing engineering. And it was when I got there that I knew that it was all mechanical engineering. The only thing is that the company that was going to train me we'll be manufacturing printing machines from the beginning to the end. And that's how. So that's my education. And then from there on, and then again, there again, I keep telling you, I see God's hand. I was to enroll in a polytechnic. I enrolled. They put me in a class that I didn't like. I said, well, that was too low for me. They want me to go and take City and Guilds. I don't know whether you've heard of City and Guilds examination before. Well, it's in UK. It's for the technicians. Okay. Not even you can't. Well, technicians. So I said that was too low for me. I wanted to be an engineer. So I had to leave that polytechnic and went to another polytechnic. I enrolled for 2 years. Even though I got to UK in January, now I was going to take two classes together. Not long after my enrollment, there was to be a test for just like a midterm test. And I did that. I went in and took the test. I led the class in mathematics, but I was the last in engineering drawing. So the head of the department couldn't reconcile it. How can you be the best in mathematics and the other? So he called me to his office. And I told him, you don't take the engineering drawing in Nigeria. So he offered to coach me. See God's hand again. So I was going to his house, not far from my own place, every week for coaching him. So by the end of that year, before the examination, he didn't have time to coach me. Then he just saw me one day in the compound. He said, oh, I'm sorry, but I have not been able to. Can you come to my house? So I said, yeah, that's all right. So I went. He took the textbook that we were using, and he gave me a big, what you call the major question. In engineering over there, you will do a big drawing on all the perspectives, this view, that view, plan, side view, and all the rest of it. What you get if you cut it across. That was what he gave to me. For 3 hours, I was sweating. And out of the 3 questions, that big question is 60%. There were 2 other questions, which would be 20%. Those are more technical and something like that. So I got to the examination hall. I discovered the 2 questions of 2020 were technical questions I could do very well. And the big one, when I looked at it, almost similar to what that man gave me. So I quickly did everything. The result came out, I had 85% in drawing. That was it. And it was the only year that I had to do drawing. So you could see God's hand all the time. So that's how and I got settled into engineering then. Because most of the things we do in engineering is mathematics. You must be good in mathematics. Whether it's science, it must be good in mathematics. So that's how I got it.
Wow.
And by the time I spent my 5 years there, I was qualified as a graduate engineer of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. Then I knew I had to be back in that 1959. I had some friends in London. I told them I was going to, because if you do the final exam in the Polytechnic, you still have to do 1 year industrial administration to be a qualified engineer. So I told these my friends, they told me, no, you don't have to wait for 1 year. Go and take, what do you call it, a coaching class, a coaching course, and take the exam externally with you. So that was in June. So I enrolled. By October, the exam was taking place. A few days after the exam, I got my ticket to come back to Nigeria. So I returned to Nigeria, and then when the result came out, I passed. So that was how I qualified.
That's a very good one, sir. As you said earlier, during the conversation, you said something around one of your lecturers saw you and he saw you deficient and was able to guide you.
Yes.
Yeah. Aside during your university days and your career, did you have any mentors, anyone to guide you and fast track?
Fortunately, nobody to guide. Nobody to guide. It's God's own hand to directly want to here and there somebody to ask questions from and to advise you. Nobody to mentor.
So what do you think the place of or the role of mentorship?
It's very important if you can get somebody to mentor you. As I keep telling you, you look at this, my own situation now. If I've got somebody who had advised me or who has the knowledge of what I was going to do and had advised me, it would have been much easier. But then, you see, as I tell you, God's own hand, God's own guidance is even more important. Because even if I had got a mentor at that time, that head of department that came into my life to ask me to be coming for, if I didn't meet him, it would probably take me another 1 or 2 years extra. You need the mentor, yeah, that's true, but you need God's hand in addition. That is very important in everybody's life. Very important. Otherwise, you can stray away from the right path.
Okay, sir. So we would like you to tell us during your journey so far till this moment, how have you taken advantage of disadvantaged moments, time that are not so good? How were you able to take opportunity from those moments?
Well,
like some of the disadvantage that you had when you went to Ghana, you made some effort to do some things in Nigeria.
yeah, I couldn't do it.
You couldn't. What are the positive things you took away from those situations?
Well, actually, the case of when I wanted to, that's a very good question. When I wanted to start industry here, as you said, well, I joined the civil service, the Ministry of Works. There again, I saw God's hand. Because within 3 years I was there, I was sent back to UK for in-service training, the practical side of it, to be able to be useful in the Ministry of Works. I came back. Those that were senior to me. We were promoted together. And around that same time, Bendel State was created. And those people, some of those that were very good, and I had some of them who were my mates in UK. They came back a little bit before me. And once that has happened, he becomes a senior. But when the creation of Bendel State came in, they were transferred to the Midwest. And all the others that were ahead of me, somehow I just superseded them. That's, again, as I said, God's hand. And that's how it happened that throughout I was leading people who are senior to me. It's not my own doing. But one thing that I discovered was that the engineering that I did was practical engineering. That's what held me in the ministry. And that is what our boys who are doing engineering today should aim at. If you are not a practical engineer, you are not an engineer. I give you one of my experiences that I had. During we started having that aspect of my life, you would not go to it, but I'll give you what happened. I left the government, 1976, I decided to leave. And I'll tell you why I left. I left because I wanted to be on my own. That happened to be that I had already done 16 years. I started a business, engineering business. That was construction then. I was in charge of equipment. My other 3 partners were in charge of civil engineering. We were making roads. Our first contract was from Ogundeyin to Elisha, to Ikweru here, and then to Shion, and we did a beautiful job. If you go there today, you see the road. Unfortunately, the government started not paying. That's another problem. And in fact, that was what ruined that company. Because the equipment we used were given to us on hire purchase by USC Caterpillar through my own influence, because I used to buy from them when we were in the government, and I never asked for any bribe from anybody. So when I moved out into construction, they were so happy to give us equipment, millions worth of equipment, and we did a beautiful job, did that road beautifully. We got another one in Abeokuta from Chapon to Oloigedi to Idiaba. We did a beautiful job. When we were going to finish it, the government didn't pay, and we had to withdraw the thing from us. I gave the juicy part of the job, gave it to some of their own friends. That was the asphalt that we had to put on. So, when the going became so bad at that time, another company that I was interested in called me to go and help at Oshogbo Machine Tools what happened at Osogbo Machine Tool was that the managing director, who was an Indian, was sent away suddenly. The deputy managing director was not an engineer, so they needed somebody to be there to advise him. So that's how I went to Osogbo. And I gave them all the conditions, and they accepted. So I was there. Whilst I was there, I saw these young men from the university. They were doing their apprenticeship, which they should do after the degree. So I thought that was a good thing. And the shop, the workshop was beautifully equipped. So I wanted to draw a plan for them to make them practical engineers. So many weeks on drilling, milling, capstan lathe, turning, and assembly. So I called them, because the group of them. One of them was the son of Professor Awe. What is his first name? I've forgotten his name. You know Mrs. Awe, the historian. Oh, from Ibadan University. This, I've forgotten the first name of the father. In any case, Professor Awe. This fellow was the son of Professor Awe. Professor Awe was one of the very first graduates from Ibadan University who did physics. This young man, who was one of them, there were about 10 of them. So I called them, and this is what I want to do. I want you to do, and it will help you when you go out of here. You've been to the university, yes, but you must know how to use your hand. So if I draw, you know what they told me? So they were not technicians. So I gave it up. 2 years later, I was sitting down in my house in Bodija. This young man, young Awe, came there to come and apologize to me what he did, because he was the leader, the ringleader. So that's not, you've not done anything, you've not hurt me, it's yourself. I told you that when I was in service, I went past all the people that the senior to me, Aberdeen University or this university. I was at the Polytechnic, but I was factory based. From getting just the raw material and doing the foundry and the casting and all the rest of it, to machine it and assemble it. And this is the thing that graduates don't do these days. And you tell them to do it, they think that they shouldn't use their hands. So that's the type of thing that I just want you to see. If you are an engineer, you must be a practical engineer. And that's what the Europeans are. But our own boys here, they think that when you become an engineer, you just put on the tie. And I will tell you again, that idea, that policy within what my own training, my own background, when my children were growing up, these are my children. When they were growing up, I always arranged for them during the vacation to send them to various factories to go and train. One of them, you want right, on the right. Yeah, first on not okay. Second from the right.
Okay.
Second from the right.
Yeah.
That's the oldest one.
Okay.
He lives in America now. He was very interested. And he went on every vacation from one factory to the other. SCOA, and I had a factory of my own. When I was in the government, a friend of mine who used to work for UAC, we combined together, we started a factory. We called it Fuba Engineers. It was very, very, very well known in those days. So I sent my children there because all the engineering processes, they learn it from there. The one on the right, the same thing. Today he's a director in a bank.
Is this an engineer?
He didn't do engineering, yet he knows about engineering. He graduated as an economist, an accountant, and got a job in a bank. And he's a director of Standard Bank. Standard Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank. The one on the left, that's the one that you all need to know. He wasn't too much interested in because he was a money man. When I arranged for him to go for some training, he quickly got hired in school to do coaching during the vacation so that he could earn money. But do you know that he is now the one that you see in the papers, the pro force engineer, is the one making the bulletproof that's the one on the left. So that is it. You must be a practical person if you call yourself an engineer.
Thank you very much, sir. So, I was about asking a question in this regard.
Yes.
Because I read a story about one engineer, Ajao.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said during those days he couldn't do so much. He started a company and he couldn't do so much in Nigeria. I think in 1950 something. And he couldn't do so much, so he left Nigeria to Italy and he started his business. So from Italy he moved down to Spain. So his son presently also an engineer, did not want to identify himself with Nigeria at all. So so looking at somebody like you, you stayed, you weathered the storms, and yet you still pass down some of those legacies, and you can see what your children is doing. So what will you say to some of us, the youth of nowadays, where we don't believe so much in Nigeria, we don't believe in solving problems? Fathers should encourage their children to be very, very, to believe in Nigeria and to look at solutions they could create in Nigeria. What do you say to the youths of our days?
Well,
though they have the privilege of traveling abroad.
You see, let me tell you this. For anybody to say that he's going to go abroad to stay over there, I would say it's the wrong step to take. It's a wrong step to take. No matter what the attraction is abroad now, for anybody, for engineers in particular, I'm talking of. This is the virgin land where you can make a fortune here. You can be anything. And then more so now that we have BOI, Bank of
Industry,
which is helping people. Yes. And not only providing money for them, they even help them with training. What else do you want? You go abroad, you become a second-class citizen. Haven't haven't you been seeing what has been happening in America? The black, they put a man down, the police will put his leg on the man's neck, and the man is saying, I'm suffocating. And he did it until he killed him. What, is that a place to go and live? I wouldn't. I have my son living there and I just pity him. I pity him. But I can tell you one thing. All these are young ones that go abroad. They feel like coming back. The only problem is that they cannot fit into the society anymore. Because we are used to the tough life here. We are used to no electricity. You can sleep without electricity. You are used to no water. You are used to no telephone. But they are not. They get used to that comfort over there. But I can tell you, eventually you are going to be better off than there. They may have it soft. They might have it cozy at the moment, but you are going to be ahead of them eventually. So don't ever think that you can go abroad to go and get training. That's all right. But to say you're going to settle down, I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't advise it.
That's it.
Now you look at you. I don't know whether did you. I thought you said you saw the Provost.
Yes, sir.
You saw it.
Yes, sir.
You tell me how many Nigerians can do that in UK? You can't. You can't allow. Even during our own time, during my own time in UK, you were not even allowed to own any business. A black man. Like today, yes, people own business over there. That's all right. But I can tell you, this is a virgin land. You just need to be creative. Be very, very creative and be adventurous and be ready to suffer. You don't gain unless you suffer. If my son tells you what he went through before he got to this stage, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. One of the things, look at the factory that he has there. When he wanted to start that factory, luckily enough, he started, anything you want to start, you start in a small way. He started small way. What brought him into this line was that he was going to work for Portland Cement. The managing director of Portland Cement was a person I knew, Mr. Chief Ogundeyin. We were together in Ibadan before he became MD of Portland Cement. He wanted him to be employed. But after about a month or so, we got a letter from he took me personally to the human resources director with my son. That shows how close we were. So we were waiting for the letter of employment. Eventually, when the letter of employment came, I read it, but my son was not around. I read it. He said there was no vacancy. That's how my son started thinking of what else could he do. And he decided that he was going to do dry cleaning to start with. Had problems in dry cleaning, but he was moving on. From there, he decided to go in for carpet cleaning. From there, he moved to industrial cleaning of offices. And it was while he was doing industrial cleaning that somebody invited him to come and represent them, come and sell bulletproof vehicle, armored vehicles for them in Nigeria. And he said, no, why should I come and sell it? You can come to Nigeria to come and manufacture a joint venture. They turned it down. Fortunately for my son, some months later, the company folded up. And he took my son too, the staff, brought them here. They were living in the compound here for almost 3 years but they were getting everything that they needed to, getting in them, sorting them out, getting them arranged, planning it, building the factory and all that, and that's it. But you can see, for 3 years, not getting any money, pouring money in it, paying people, not producing anything. They are producing something that not something that you can sell immediately. So that's it. You have to. The only, as I keep saying, one has to be, you have to be creative. Creative, you have to think of what you can. There are lots of things we can do here. Lots of things. And it helps, again, if you have opportunity to go abroad occasionally, come back, because you see things over there. So, that's it.
So, sir, it's what you just said now is very challenging and
It is.
being very practical as an
Yes,
engineer.
yes.
You said so much about we youths being very dogged
Yes.
in our approach to things.
Yes.
How do you encourage individual doggedness, not expecting so much from
That is to be built into our children from the beginning, from the youth. When my children were growing up, they had to do the lawn, the mowing of the lawn, and I didn't have the gardener. They had to cut the hedge. They had to do the cooking. Every one of them learned how to cook in the kitchen, and they did do it in turns. They had to do washing the plates. They had to clean the house. That's the way you become dogged. Not just sitting down and wanting somebody else to be doing it for you. Yeah. So you see, I'm a very practical man, that's the thing. And I thank God because the type of training that I keep telling you that I was factory-based, not just going to college all the time. You go to college for 4 years and then you come out, you go into, they take you to the training school. In the training school, all you do is a bit of drawing here and there, and then you say you graduate as an engineer. You need to be on the shop floor. And even when you are on the shop floor doing practical things, you learn how to relate to the shop floor people. That is management.
Yes, sir.
We can just put it here. And you see, and don't forget, we have to take steps to make sure that our country, we develop it ourselves. We are not going to get somebody to come and develop the country for us. We have to develop it ourselves. We have to develop it ourselves.
I personally believe in Nigeria. I believe in development of Nigeria.
Yeah.
I believe that things can still work out in spite of present challenges.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at our state here, Ogun State, and one way or the other, I see the proximity to Lagos,
Yeah.
and I expected so much.
Yeah.
And Sir, how can we help ourselves as youths? What can we do? Because I've read so much about, even yourself, some of the foundations. I think you're one of the board of directors in some foundations.
Yeah.
I want a broader productivity for us here, development here. So what do you think can be done by us here that are from somebody like him, myself, that we are from the States? What do you think we can do better that we have not done?
Well, as I keep saying, one has to be creative. And when you are creative, being creative, that means you must be very adventurous. And you have to be very inquisitive. I'm not saying that you be inquisitive than putting your nose into people's business. That inquisitive to find out things, gaining knowledge. And then these days we are so lucky. You have the Google, you have all these things, you get them to get all the information you need. In those days you couldn't. So all those are exploring all these avenues. And what can I do? What are people doing that can be industrialized? So that a typical example, I was thinking, you look at the way we do our mind. I've been thinking of it for some time. To get my mind done, you have to go and wrap it up. Go and get the leaves from the farm. All that can get eliminated. If you find a way, the way you are going to cook it,
Bake it.
with well, it may be baking, whatever. What do you call it? Stainless steel utensils that we're going to use for. Those things, one can think and think about it. Our people used to, Gary for instance, they used to how to grate it with the hand. Today it's no longer that. That's it. And they can still improve on that.
Even frying.
Yeah, even frying, you can still improve on that. Those are the things.
A friend of mine even got 40 million naira. He came up with a kind of facility that can be used instead of frying.
Yeah.
He got 40 million naira grant from the federal government. BHL, Babatunde Hakim Lawal.
Yeah.
So I believe in creativity.
That's it.
We know that the governments also have a role to play.
Government is already playing that role now. The BOI, there's no doubt about that. We have no excuse now.
But Lagos, people in Lagos have this much of opportunities than some other states.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, maybe. There is one. Just a minute.
Yeah, I said people in Lagos have some of these
They
possibilities.
do. There's no doubt about that. I'll tell you a typical example. When I came back and I was in Lagos, I rented a room. That room, my room and sitting room would be from there to there. My sitting room could only take a small table and one chair. If I got from my sitting room to my bedroom, there's no space, I just get onto my bed. How much was I paying? £10 per month. When I got to Ibadan, I got two beautiful bedrooms, large sitting room, dining, kitchen, toilet. So I said, what? And how much? £10. That is why I lived in Ibadan for many years. I never built a house in Ibadan. Lagos is the place.
So some of my colleagues here, some of them have questions.
Yes, go on.
Let me start from
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity.
Yeah.
I am also a business person like Mr. Ayo. I was thinking, I don't know how it could have gone through it because from the role like you have played in their life, you have probably looked like their mentor. If you had gone them through all those drillings, they would have probably looked up to you. I was wondering how easy was it or how difficult was it to start up a business, going through businesses to businesses? Because I'm of the opinion that why didn't he just stay in dry cleaning business if it was lucrative?
No, it was lucrative, but they had problems. Take, for instance, in the dry cleaning, the boys were stealing the starch that they were
Okay, that was
used
using for
food.
customers.
They would use it for their lunch. Using but that's not even too much. Sometimes they iron the clothes, they burn it, they won't tell you. One man brought his clothes for washing. They delivered it to him. He went out with it, and he got to Tinubu Square, only to find out his trousers split, and had to come back to them. What have you done? Oh, that became a problem. Sometimes that you see, don't get discouraged. There's no business in which you won't get problems. You must find solution to it. Some of them will come to the laundry where he was doing his work. Some of the boys, when customers brought their shirts, they take the best shirt and wear it and put their own there. So the owner of the shirt will be looking for it, so they can't find the shirt. That's another problem. And he had to pay for it. When he went into carpet cleaning, they go into people's home, do some cleaning, and they will steal small rug. And of course, he became very he was up to the task. They went and searched their homes, and they discovered the rug there. Handed them over to the police.
Okay.
So there is no business that you are going to go into that you are not going to have problems. There's nothing easy in this world that you must be up to the task. That's it.
Another thing I was wondering was, you said after he started Provost,
Yes.
that he hired staffs of that company that decided not to partner,
Yes.
and then they were living in this vicinity.
Yes.
So you probably know. How was he? There was no bank of investments.
No.
There was no bank of industry that could lend.
No.
How was he able to fund the business as at that time?
Well,
Because funding, I figured that funding too it has its own role. It is also important as the ideal. And if in some businesses, if you can actually have idea, if I can actually think of making this armor car, but then it cannot be funded.
No, you can't see. Don't forget, he's been coming from dry cleaning,
Okay.
carpet cleaning, office cleaning. All along, he's gaining experience and he's making contact, making a name. With that, the stages that he's passed through, there's no doubt he will have some good relationship with the banks, with some banks. He can still be getting a little bit of overdraft. So that's it. No, but as I keep telling you, you don't have to start big. Anything that you're going to do must start small. It's only small things that can grow. So you have the, and then people go on reading, getting ideas and information, reading. But I keep telling you, you have to be close to your God. It's at this stage now, I suppose he himself, he grew up, as he was growing up with the business, he was growing up in the church as well. He's what do you call it, a pastor in Redeem. You know, to get to become a pastor, you must have to, and develop yourself. If you are doing all these things, you have, at the same time, you must develop yourself spiritually. You have to, especially in this society in which we are, you have to develop yourself spiritually. You can't be there in one day. That's no doubt. There's no way to be there in one day. It takes time. You know how old I am? Huh? You know how old I am? How old do you think I am?
Maybe 70.
70. What do you think?
Like about 77, 78.
I'm 88.
I was going to say that.
Wow.
Because I'm trying to look at the year.
1930s.
Because so I was trying to look at from there.
Yeah, I'm 88. So then you are going to develop yourself by making effort all the time. You can't sit down complacently and expect to get on in life. You have to work hard. But I keep telling you, you must, your God is number one. No effort you can make in this life without God. Therefore they can't succeed. So you must learn about God, about how to walk with God, how to work with God, to partner with God. He's the only one that will be directing you. And he's the only one that will be protecting you as well. So these are very, very important things in one's life.
Okay, so thank you very much, sir. Onolapo, any questions?
No.
Victor.
The question I actually wanted to ask, he has asked the question.
Yeah.
You have gotten more clarification on that.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask about, because he didn't ask if I had finished. I was going to ask also about down the line, was there would obviously be peer pressures.
Pardon?
Peer pressures along the line. Like you said, I think I remember you saying there were some aspects where your mates were probably in Ibadan making over so, and then this company you resigned from was deciding to. How were you able to deal with stuff like that?
Peer, you mean peer?
Peer, yeah.
There is no doubt you must have peer pressure. You have that. You will have that. It's the training that you have at home that is going to help you. And then I keep telling you, when you move close to God, God will always protect you. That is very, very important. Don't play with that. Don't play with it. I have discovered that there are lots of mistakes that I made, especially in secondary school and when I was in UK, that God kept on delivering me. And it's now that when I look back, I see what terrible mistakes that I've made in the past. But you see, when God knows that you are making effort, all that, especially you have your mind must be clear. Don't have any animosity against anybody. bá mi jà mi ò ní kí mọ́. I listened to one somebody that I admire very much. One preacher, he's not a preacher but a teacher, T.B. Joshua. He will tell you, and one can learn from his own life. You must not have enemies. Luckily enough, you can learn all these things these days. In our own time, there was nothing like that. It's only God that, through His mercy, He just decided to help us. We didn't deserve it. But today now, you can listen to all these things and pick the one that will be useful to you. You are talking of peer pressure. Yes. You are old enough to know what is good and what is bad. You look at what is happening all over the whole place now. Raping with girls all over the whole place. And fortunately or unfortunately, governments all over Nigeria now they are enacting laws that if you do any rape or you attempt rape now, you go to jail forever, for life. You want to go to jail. So you must know that rape is something that you must not go near. These are the things. And you should have had the experience that going to parties, you have to be very careful because of the type of friends that you move with. If you go to a party, if I go to a party and they go and bring me a drink, I wouldn't take it. You have to be careful. You should prefer to open the bottle of your drink yourself. Because some of these boys, they introduce all sorts of drugs into,
Yes.
especially for girls. When they put the drug in, the girl falls asleep and then they rape the girl. And even boys, they put the thing in, you become part of them before you know where you are. Taking marijuana and all the rest of it. And all these things, they are not good for anybody. But I keep telling you, God is the one that can. You can't do it yourself. Oh. You can't do it yourself. You must know that in life. You can't do it yourself. Ask your God to help you. You wake up in the morning, you pray to God. Before you sleep, you pray to God. Please help me. I can't help myself. And you will find out that somehow He will be piloting you. You won't know. You won't know. It's only when you've grown up that you begin to look back and realize, yes, there was an unforeseen hand that was directing you. So you can't avoid having friends, but you must know the type of friends that you have. I won't go with a friend that is a drunkard. My friend, my son, is now that I see that, and that's what I keep saying. You have the opportunity now. I didn't have the opportunity of being told that I should move close to God. You have the opportunity, you are being told. And you are being shown how to move close to God. Read your Bible, read carefully, attentively, and slowly to digest what is happening, to try and see what God is saying. The Bible is from God. Don't go on thinking that somebody just wrote that thing. It's the spirit of those people that God used to write what you see there. It's not just that anybody writing the Bible. No. God used their spirit. So it's very important, very, very important. And I want to, I want to plead with you. If you've not been doing it, go and change and make sure that your God is number one in everything that you're going to do. He has everything. He owns everything. Your wisdom, your future, your health, whatever. You leave everything into his hands, but try to follow his ways. Don't go on sinning. Don't sin. He says you should not sin, and you must find out what those things that God doesn't like. And don't do them. Try to avoid them. It's very tempting. Life is very, very tempting, especially for young people of your age. Very, very tempting. But if you can realize that you need to kneel down and call on God, please help me, God will listen. I told you when I was young, I never knew anything about God until I was 40. And look at what had happened all my life. By the time I was 40, at 40, I became chief engineer in the Ministry of Works. And that was the highest that you go. I was not even up to just before I was 40. And yet I didn't know God. But at that time, it was that same year that I realized that there was something missing in my life. And somehow God himself drew me near to him in a miraculous way.
So, looking at Ijebure actors,
Yeah.
what kind of shifts do you dream of?
What kind of
shifts or adjustments you desired for Ijebure access from the way it is now?
Well, you know, not only the Remo axis, the whole of Nigeria axis. We've got the wrong people. People, I won't say wrong people. We've got people who have the wrong ideas. All that everybody's thinking of making money. You see what road you came through, especially very close to you. Nobody bothers to. You will see this road here. The fence here was destroyed by flood recently, and it cost over 12 million. 12 million to redo it. You can see what the amount of even the main road, which belongs to the government, the company had to go and do it for them. Ordinary clearing the gutter, nobody does it, and yet money comes from Abuja. We share it. If I were you, I won't share that type of money with anybody, because the consequences are going to be. You cannot do evil and hope that all will be well in your life. It's impossible. It's whatever you sow that you're going to reap. It's whatever you sow that you're going to reap.
Thank you very
So
much.
that is the local councils that we have, all they can do is to go and collect money.
Sure.
There was a fellow here who was in the council, was it, they call it something, he was in the local government council. And I asked him, what are you people doing? He told me they were getting zero allocation. You know what zero allocation means? The money comes just for their salary, doing nothing. getting salaries. Zero allocation. The millions come from Abuja, they can share it, go home, build house. I don't envy them. And I will never join them. And I keep telling my children, don't ever say you're going to politics.
Why would you not envy them?
Pardon?
Why would you not envy them?
Why should I envy them? Envy rogues? Envy people who are doing the wrong thing? I can't.
The reason why I asked the question is youths, 20s, 30s, are all aspiring to be like them because of the money.
Well, let them go on. You will always see the end of it. You will always see the end of it. As I tell you, you remember that one thing. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. If you sow bad thing, it's the bad thing that you're going to reap. Don't envy them. You find in some cases, they train their children with all that money. What do you get at the end of it? Whether the child becomes one of these drug addicts or I don't envy them. I don't envy them. And besides that, you need your peace of mind. Peace of mind, you need it. They don't have any peace of mind. They don't. And what are we working for in this life? The other day, what is it? Designing. You remember designing? You look at the millions and millions that she was withdrawing from NNPC. What does she want to do with all that money? She can't live, she can't sleep in 2 rooms. She can't wear more than one dress at a time. If you wear more than one, they'll be looking at you, is there something wrong with this man? Eh? And then they just squander the money and you will find that God is there. God is so patient. That's the picture of it. He's very patient. And it doesn't take guns to run after anybody. But when he's going to catch you, he will catch you. Unexpectedly.
So, sir, I actually have something to ask as regards to this. I am of the opinion that if everybody is not to go into politics, and okay, I have a business of my own, I'm doing very, very fine. But then I don't like the state of the country, probably because they are looting. The standard of living is very, very low, and some people are looting the money. If everybody is to go by the trend of don't go into politics, like you said, you tell your children, when would Nigeria be good? When would it get better?
That's all right. One thing you must remember. God, he has a way of coming things round. If God wants to help us in Nigeria, all these things that are happening, you can turn it around. You look at Corona. Can you believe that the whole world can be at a standstill? About a year ago, can you believe that the whole world can be at a standstill? No aeroplane, no nothing. Everybody at home. Can you believe it? That shows you God is there. God is there if you want. And we've been told that God says he wants everybody to be on his knees. Even Trump, when he sees the number of his people dying of corona now, he's getting worried. Huh? He's getting worried. God is there to put things right. I'm not going to, if I told you 1952, around 1952, it was then that we had Action Group led by Obafemi Awolowo. The development they did in this western region in the few years that he was alive is still there till today for everybody to see. Why did that happen? God, this was God's work. If God wants to turn things around, he can bring somebody who is going to do it. Unfortunately, the people who could have done it were the army. When they can say, no, this is the way you have to go. But they themselves, they were interested in unity.
So, looking at the trend of this discussion, down to the political space, political discussions that we were having now, and the deterioration of our youths,
Yeah.
I think there should be a kind of a focus, opinion, that would build or develop the youth as regard having the capacity and integrity that is needed to go into the political space.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say that possibly there should be a kind of initiative or foundation that will focus on this.
Well, if you look at it, you'll find that we are talking of all these politicians. There are a few of them that are very clean. A few, but very few. And that's how the thing will increase. The only problem that I have noticed is that if you are not ready to loot with them, you cannot work with them. You cannot be part of them. That God in his own way, he knows how to put things right. If he wants to put things right, he will do it. He will do it. He will do it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the
It's my
time.
pleasure.
Yes, sir. We really appreciate the time we spent with you.
Not very short. It's not short at all. It's always very long. Can be dogged. Get. With God on your side, you'll be there eventually. With God on your side, you'll be there eventually. I've had a typical example in the ministry, when I was in the ministry. Especially people in the civil engineering side of it. They make money. Like when I look back now, I can't see anybody, any of them, that I can say that has done much better than those who didn't make money. When you're making cheap money, you spend it in a cheap way. You have girlfriends, and in the process of having girlfriends, you'll be getting more and more into sin, getting more and more into problems. If you make cheap money, you will find out that you will spend it in a cheap way. But to buy that, to make a way, you will think twice before you spend it. You will think very well before you spend it. So don't get yourself dragged away, enticed away by what people they are making money, so therefore I must make money. If you do, well, the consequences are there. Consequences are there.
Thank you very much, sir. At this junction, we would like to say Victor Onolapo would like to appreciate you, and I think he also has one or two things to say.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it. thank you for allowing us to. Thank you for granting us the opportunity to.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, we are really grateful.
I really appreciate your coming. Coming all the way from Lagos is not an easy thing. And for you to set aside this time to come. But I think it's useful gaining experience like this, knowing what life is like from those who have been through it. So,
thank you very much, sir.
thank you.
We gained a lot of life lessons today that will help us.
Yeah, thank you.
He finished from last year, Lagos State University.
Lagos State University.
And he studied engineering, mechanical engineering. He came out with the first class.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So he's still undergoing the training.
Yeah. What Professor said to you, make sure you go into practical engineering. After doing the practical engineering, then if you want to have, now, you probably want to do PhD or something of sort, yes. But make sure that practical part of it, you get it. It's then when you talk, people, they appreciate what you are talking about. And they respect you for it. Don't just be an engineer by theory. Huh?
Thank you very much.
Sir, okay.
I wanted to ask you if it's possible for us to take a look around the factory.
The factory you can't. I'll tell you why.
Okay, sir.
I didn't make the arrangement for it.
Okay.
The owner, I don't have nothing to do with the factory.
Yeah.
Don't you know that? It's my son that owns the place, and let me see if he's around.
Okay, sir.
I had school start in around 1952, around 52. So she started studying agreement with 3 children and working. And she got GC again and entered UI for 3 years, the BSc course. And she came out top of the class. And she was offered lecturership or lectureship immediately. So she started as assistant lecturer. Like 2 years later, she was given a scholarship to go to the US to go and do masters. So she left for US in, that was 75, and got her master's and came back to the Department of Nursing in UI. And went on and she enrolled immediately for PhD. 10 years later, she got her PhD. By that time, she had 4 children. So, and eventually she became acting head of the Department of Nursing there. And in 1992, she retired, and she got an appointment in Kuwait as a senior lecturer. And she was in Kuwait for 10 years, and then eventually became associate professor and head of the department of nursing in Kuwait. So she came back in 2002. And ever since she's actually retired. So it was there, that's how she got all these medals. So,
That was why you said she's an achiever. She's
yeah, you can see. You can see. It's all house. I haven't even got one. because she UCH, she's the Department of Nursing, yes. Yes.
She's not Nigerian. Oh, she's a black.
Oh, yeah, oh, of course. The father is from Abeokuta, the mother is from Ghana. And she's a
Thank you.